All right, let's get our Facebook members up here running. Got the wheels spinning. And boom, and come on, one more. I believe in you. There we go. All right. Welcome in. Welcome in. It is Monday morning, the 30th, and it is time for an episode of Broncos for Breakfast. I am Nick Kendell, joined by Scott Kennedy. I am still out here in East Iowa, sitting in my childhood bedroom. So hopefully the internet holds out. But yeah, kind of weird to be in this space. I got my mom's makeup mirror as my light. That's kind of why I look like so white in the face here. So shout out to mom for that. You know, we rented a Chrysler Pacifica and drove across the country, and I brought out most of my recording gear, but not every single thing. So making it work. Hopefully the internet will hold up. Scott, how you doing? Unfortunate. Both our teams, it doesn't seem like no matter what we do, they are intertwined. You mentioned when I said that earlier that Denver's in a slightly better spot. I think so too, but I mean, the chokage might be a little bit related. The heartbreaking overtime loss feels related. The quarterback
score was identical.
Was the score seriously identical?
30-24 was both of them, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the score was identical.
It was. Yep, final and overtime. How did we get here? What's going on? It's just frustrating.
I'm telling you, this will explain a lot for those of you who don't know, but I am an only child. And yes, you do think the world revolves around you. And it's stuff like this that makes it feel like, yes, the jinx around you is incredibly powerful.
Yeah. I think the Falcons have the longest playoff drought in the NFC right now. If they're not,
I think they're tied with somebody else, but yeah, I think this is year 6 now. So it's been since 2017.
And Denver has the second longest playoff drought in the NFL, only ahead of the Jets.
That one's ending.
You think so? I mean, we'll talk about it here. Denver has a massive game coming up this week versus the Kansas City Chiefs. It does sound like the Chiefs are going to be resting players. Now, what does that mean? Are they going to be resting the entirety of the offensive line? Or is this something where you see Hopkins, Kelsey, Mahomes, and Chris Jones? I don't know who exactly will be out exactly, but make no mistake about it, Broncos country. You still shouldn't take the Chiefs likely, even if they are playing backups, because Denver has proven the last couple weeks, with the defensive regression and some questionable, I think, decisions from Sean Payton and whatnot, they could easily lose to the Chiefs backups still. It is the NFL after all. It's a league of parity and chaos. So forced parity sometimes, but I digress. Yeah, very frustrating loss. We haven't had a chance to really talk about this Bengals game, Scott. And you and I are very much, offensive line, defensive line oriented people. If you win there, you're going to win the football games. I thought Denver pretty emphatically won the lines of scrimmage in this game versus the Bengals. Their pass rush had a lot of big sacks, and I think the Bengals really couldn't get the ground game going overall. Denver ran the ball as well as they have in a while, and Bo Nix, I didn't think took many sacks, and yet here we are. Denver loses a close one.
It's one of those, though, where it's the exception helps prove the rule. There's such a disparity between offensive skill players on the Cincinnati Bengals and Denver Broncos that's what made the difference. I mean, when we were talking about lining up, if I take a big three of Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins, that's as good as any three in the NFL. It's in the argument. For
I can't
sure.
think of anybody better. I
can't say Sam Darnold because I'd go Justin Jefferson. As well as Sam Darnold's been playing, I'm still taking Joe, by a lot. And then, you look on the other side and you got a rookie quarterback who's playing well, but he is still a rookie quarterback. And he's not, if I'm going to disparage Sam Darnold in the way he's playing compared to Joe Burrow right now, it's no hot take to do the same thing for a rookie quarterback. And Courtland Sutton is solid, but he's probably not as good as T. And then after that, it kind of falls down, despite how well Marvin Mims played. Marvin Mims comes up and plays as well as any of those guys, but consistently speaking, it's not quite there.
Yeah, it is an unfortunate one. And really, I mean, this comes down to it's not fair. And again, this is not the measuring stick on the whole of Bo Nix's career, but the last two games, it's okay. Denver has a rookie quarterback who's playing very good for a rookie. Now there are question marks here still. There's still plenty to work on. But you have that in comparison to what Justin Herbert has done the last 2 weeks, including the game against Denver, where he just made some unbelievable throws. And then Joe Burrow, who had a crazy game as well. And they were just able to pick away at whatever matchups they wanted to in the pass game. It kind of felt like, I was very young when this happened, but it felt like an inevitability of when Denver would used to go up against Peyton Manning back in the day, and whatever it was, the RCA Dome or Carrier, I can't remember what it was called out there before Lucas Oil. But Peyton Manning would find that one matchup with that one receiver that he wanted, and they were going to go to town and isolate it, and there's nothing you could do to stop them. Maybe you're not giving up the explosives, but they're going to get it every time they want it. And that's kind of how it felt with Joe Burrow in this game. Denver's defense, I thought, played okay. I know that the point total, 24 in regulation, what did they only give up? 7 in the first half, but you only force one punt, and it's all the way until overtime.
So that was an overtime, wasn't it?
It was an overtime punt. Really, it's something that I've talked about earlier in the podcast. Well, I've talked about on Twitter as well. Denver, for some reason, I don't know if it's not having as good as Nick Bonitto's playing. He's not like a superstar pass rusher. I don't know if it's just the back seven, but Denver has not. They've been awesome on first and second down. They have not been able to close the lid on offenses on third down this season on the whole. And that's something the Bengals were able to do in this game pretty regularly. Denver could just, despite the sacks, despite the long yardage, Bengals were able to convert at the end of the day. And it was very frustrating from the defense.
Well, what's interesting to me, let me see if this has changed on Bonitto. Oh, he did get 2 sacks against the Falcons. Yep. His streak of sacks was like, a consecutive games hitter that goes 1 for 4 every time. You got hitter, but it was always 1, 1, 1, 1. He wasn't like taking over games. Mm-hmm. So Nick Bonitto is very good. He is. And Michael's been very good to us too. Michael, good morning. Hope you are doing well out in Tucson. He's been very good, but he's not defensive player of the year. He's not taking over games, so to speak. And say, well, what about the pick sixes and, the touchdowns? Yeah, but again, it's for the play in, play out. He's been awesome. Don't get me wrong. But like you said, he's not necessarily taking over games down to down.
Yeah.
Splash plays.
Yeah, he's great. And Cooper had a big game, and Zach Allen, 3.5 sacks. The defense, again, I come back to the defense.
Zach Allen takes over games.
He hadn't since he hurt his foot, whatever that game was. I think it was the Browns game. He got injured and then kind of had a 3-game slide there. I think we actually are questioning now because the other guys have stepped up and played really well. Zach Allen might miss the All-Pro bid this season just because Leonard Williams played unbelievable football the second half. Who's the guy on the Eagles that we were both obsessed with? And then he kind of Jalen Carter. Yep. The guys like that, Dexter Lawrence, obviously, and Chris Jones. But Zach Allen had an unbelievable game, doubled his sack total on the season, and Denver just couldn't get it done. Unfortunately, I really came away frustrated with Jaquan McMillan, Riley Moss, the safeties, the linebackers, the back seven outside of PS2 had one of their worst games of the season, other than the Cleveland game. And I don't think it's all on Riley Moss. Obviously, he was pulled out because of a hamstring injury, got his head hit, still coming back from that. Was it MCL injury that he had? I've seen calls for
Huddle too, wasn't it? The knee to the side of the head.
Yep. And I've seen Broncos countries have calls to replace him as a CB2 this season. I don't think, Riley Moss had a bad game, no doubt about that, but he's shown enough good this season in man coverage and everything for being on a rookie contract that I think that's asinine. It was a bad game, no doubt, but you're going against a top 10 wide receiver in Higgins and a top 5 quarterback in Joe Burrow, and they were able to pick on it for a guy who wasn't healthy. And it's not all Riley Moss. It was PJ Locke. It was Cody Barton. It was Jaquan McMillan, who had a horrific game. He's been pretty dreadful the last 5-6 games out there. I feel bad for Moss. I think Denver kind of also tried to take him out and maybe go more zone. We saw Mathis out there. We saw Chris Abrams drain, and then the zone was even worse than the man coverage, as we've seen from this defense this season, Scott. So again, I think the calls for Moss to be replaced this offseason are very short-sighted, and I don't want to use say stupid, but
Was it
silly.
recency bias? Isn't that the
Recency
phrase?
bias.
You know,
Yeah,
it's a knee-jerk reaction. You know, before he goes out there and plays, everybody's saying he's been the key to the defense. Look how bad it's been without Riley Moss.
Yep.
It's recency bias and, you know, the knee-jerk reaction, and that's what gut reactions are for. Riley Moss is good. Now, I want to upgrade the defensive backfield? Yeah, I do. I'd like to see some premium resources spent in the backfield in the offseason.
You think so? Who actually is being replaced then? Because I think
I want competition. I want competition.
Yeah.
So I want to go in if I'm going through the draft and I've got a number one corner on my board in the first round, and he's my number one,
far and away.
I wouldn't necessarily pass him by.
Yeah.
And then I can move Riley into the slot, or I can move him into the slot and let you freelance. Have my first round pick play in the slot a little bit. But I want more competition for PJ Locke, for Damari Mathis, for Jaquan McMillan, for Chris Abrams-Drain. Those are the guys. I want to bring in one guy to make sure that, and for Riley Moss, that just increases the competition. I don't think you're good enough and deep enough in the defensive back five in a nickel that you can ignore that in the offseason. So I want competition and make the best man win.
I'm with you on a holistic team building approach.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like because you have 2 years of cost control left after the season with Moss and McMillan, that it's not like a dire need necessarily. I think you also have another season of Locke as well. But if you can bring somebody else in there, and the board should dictate it. Denver's at a spot now where it's like, yes, obviously we need a running back. Yes, obviously we need a tight end. But
yeah, don't get me wrong.
It's draft good players, period.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. My first 3 needs for this team are wide receiver, running back, tight end. But I think you can't address everything all at once with one pick. You know, that I would say inside linebacker is a need and defensive back is a need, whether it be safety. Brandon Jones has been great. I think he's locked in as a starter. I don't think PJ Locke necessarily is. Yeah. And I think you need more competition at corner. Max coming in says, morning, Nick and Scott from Manitoulin Island. Up in Canada. Thank you for the support, my friend. Hope you are doing well and staying toasty up there. He said, are there any DTs in the first round worth taking? Look into that line, especially if DJ Jones is out the door.
Yeah, absolutely. The 2025 draft, as far as the defensive side of the ball goes, defensive tackle is probably the best position in the defensive side. Edge still has some talent, but it hasn't lived up to the hype as much, where defensive tackle has been pretty good. You have running back is probably the best in the class. Tight end's probably number 2. And then tied with tight end is probably defensive tackle. And luckily for Denver, I think those are probably 3 of the positions that you should look at. DJ Jones had a good game. Roach has been solid this season. Happy with John Franklin Myers. Every single one of those guys is either a free agent at the end of the season or the following season. So, and Zach Allen's a free agent after 2025 as well. So defensive tackle is going to have some turnover here coming up. I think Allen's back, but you still need to rotate. Also,
Allen will get a new contract before he reaches his free agent year.
The other aspect of this is what Allen is doing as far as a snap count perspective. I just don't think it's tenable for long-term success. He can't be playing an extra 10, 15 snaps per game compared to every other
20 games
in football. Yeah.
He's playing like 20 games. You need some help for him. And if you need some help with your entertainment during these games as they spread them out across multiple days, check out Underdog Fantasy. Underdog is the place to play if you're a sports fan looking to win money while watching sports. Join over 5 million fans who are already playing on Underdog. With their pick'em game, you could win money by making entries with your favorite players. Compete against other players just by selecting higher or lower on 2 or more players' stats, and you could win up to 1,000 times your money. Turn every touchdown into a win with Underdog.
With their champs game, you could win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on player stats like passing yards, interceptions, touchdowns, and much more. Like, for example, will Bo Nix have a higher or lower than 231.5 passing yards or 2.5 touchdowns? I mean, he's been on a streak with those touchdowns here. So we'll see about that. Every dog deserves a second chance. And with Underdog Rescues, you can get your money back and receive a promo if an early injury causes your entry to lose.
So download the Underdog app today and use code MHuddle to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, download the Underdog app today and use our code MHuddle to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Every player, every touchdown, just select higher or lower on Underdog.
Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply, void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342. New York, called 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Back to that super chat, though, with the question about defensive tackles in the first round. Yes, there's going to be defensive tackles in the range for Denver. It's very possible just with the talent of the board. It's a rotational position. It's a developmental position. Denver could add a log to the fire. Also, if you look at Sean Payton's history drafting with the Saints, he used more picks on the defensive line than any other spot on the roster. So the names to keep in mind for the Broncos, probably mid to late first round. You got Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss. Kenneth Grant, nose tackle out of Michigan, Derek Harmon from Oregon, Tyleik Williams from Ohio State, Alfred Collins maybe is one as well. And you kind of have some inside-outside guys that potentially could be some, because Denver, Zach Allen came out of Boston College as an edge rusher. He's now playing that 4-eye spot. You had Jonathan Franklin Myers, who's playing edge. He's now playing that 4-eye. So kind of a penetrating size guy like that. Maybe somebody like Landon Jackson at Arkansas, but the one that really stands out for me is Shamar Stewart at Texas A&M, who is a 6'6", 290-pound athlete, kind of freak guy. So still kind of, sometimes he plays a little bit reckless because he's so big and powerful that he can't really stop. It's kind of the Jadeveon Clowney type of package there, but he's a freak athlete. I think he'd probably test his way up into the top 10 though at the end of the day, but we'll see. But yeah, there's going to be defensive tackles available for Denver.
I watched Jamar Chaney do a full backflip in pads, standing backflip, and not a back handspring, but a standing backflip in full pads when he was in high school. He's the best defensive end prospect I ever scouted. Ended up being number 1 overall pick. Didn't quite live up to that, but no. He was the as far as what are you looking for? That's the guy right there. That's him. That was him. James, we're looking for you, James. He says a nationally televised game in the throwbacks on CBS with Tony Romo and Jim Nantz on the call to clinch a wild card berth. Place will be rocking. Yes, it will. And it should be, there's a lot of talk about, playing the Kansas City Chiefs B team, whatever, backing into the play. I see that from Broncos fans. No, you ate your veggies during the year to get to this point where you could win 10 games. Doesn't matter how you win them, when you win them, just matters that you win them. And you've earned this right. And I think to James's point, the place will be rocking. I think it's a celebration. It's a celebration of a really good season to win 10 games. It's been a while, Broncos country. And a 10-7 season is a hell of a season for this team. Go win out. You're gonna have a sour taste in your mouth if you lose. 9-8 still above expectations, but it's gonna leave you feeling pretty hollow. 10-7 in a playoff berth, and that place will be rocking. Appreciate the support, James.
Yeah, thank you so much, James. Yeah, it does sound like Kansas City is going to be resting a bunch of players. Now, what does that mean exactly? Who's that going to be out? Who's not going to be in and out? Because that's going to be a long time for them to have time off, Scott, right? They played that Wednesday was their last game, right? Was it Christmas Wednesday? Now they're going to be off this game. Then they have the bye. Almost 20-plus days off between games. I mean, that's kind of weird. So we'll see what they look like. Maybe they'll be really flat and lose their first matchup. That'd be awesome. But yeah, it's going to be tough. All the same. I mean, I know I already seen Broncos country. Oh, they're playing the backups. This is kind of in the bag. Have we watched this team? I mean, I know that it'll be the backups, but it is the NFL. I mean, they still got to go out there and execute and get the job done. It's still a good, well-coached
a lot of
team.
Snaps in the NFL with a 48-man game day roster.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see. I see Tim Hall coming in. Is something behind him, or is Nick Kenny Powers? I know Kenny Powers. I don't know. I never watched the show. I don't know.
Sometimes the Christmas trees are looking mullety on you, depending on where you sit. That's what he's referring to.
Okay. Yeah. No, I got bedhead right now, but no, we're good. Nothing. There's a bookshelf behind me. But thanks for the super chat there, Tim. Back to the point, though, did want to talk a little bit about the schedule. So obviously Denver's playoff scenarios now with 1 week left are pretty easy. You win, you get in, you get the 7th seed. If you lose, you need the Dolphins to lose to the Jets. That's not happening, folks. And you need the Bengals to lose to the Steelers. That said, the Steelers play the second game on Saturday. So the Steelers are already going to know if they've won the AFC, have a chance to win the AFC North or not. Because if Baltimore beats Cleveland, again, it's the NFL. You never know. I shouldn't talk in absolutes about Dolphins, Jets either, but the Steelers are going to know if they have a chance to win and win the AFC North or not. The kicker here, and I think somebody on Twitter posted, the Steelers are going to have nothing to play for. The Steelers lose that game, and then the Chargers win against the Raiders, who, hey, have won 2 in a row. How about those Raiders kicking that draft pick from 2 overall all the way down to 8 now, I think. But
same for the Giants.
Yeah, the Giants win too. But thanks, Drew Lock. Maybe Drew Lock will be the quarterback of the Raiders next season. That'd be fun. But the point I was getting to is that even though the Steelers, I think the Ravens probably beat the Browns, even though the Steelers won't have a chance to win the AFC North, if they lose to the Bengals and play their backups and lose to the Bengals, they have a chance to go from the 5th seed to the 6th seed. And as you guys we've talked about on here, what a big difference it is to be the 5th seed in the AFC versus the 6th seed, because that's going on the road to Baltimore, if in that scenario, if Baltimore wins, or it's going on the road to Houston. And Houston is a very, very, very flawed playoff team. So somebody said, the Steelers won't have anything to play for. I think you have plenty to play for if your difference is going on the road against Lamar Jackson and a Baltimore defense who's been number 1, Scott, in the NFL in EPA per dropback. Their defense was horrible beginning of the year. Now they're the best pass defense in football. So it goes to show how things can change in a season, just like how Denver's defense was early compared to what they are now, versus going to Houston. So Pittsburgh still has plenty to play for.
Remember at the beginning, about week 4 or 5, Nick, we started talking about this high risk, high reward defense that the Denver Broncos play. And as the season wears on, how would it still hold up with all of the blitzing, as we move to the end of the season? I think we've seen a little bit that it's not quite as it's getting figured out just a little bit, and to be fair, this defense on the whole, when we get to the end of the season, we look at all the stats, this defense, I think, has wildly overachieved based on the personnel coming in. It was one of the biggest concerns that we had. Again, you're coming in, it's like, yes, you improved on the defensive line, but as a defensive line, the bar was so low that it had nowhere to go but up. Nick Bonito takes a huge step up. Jonathan Cooper takes a huge step up. Your linebackers have been serviceable, even with the injuries. Brandon Jones came in and played at a level that was, frankly, better than what you were getting from Justin Simmons. And P.J. Locke has been playing as a steady professional. You're getting all those things, but there were still questions coming in. You schemed your way through those personnel deficiencies through the first half of the season, and now I think they're starting to show up a little bit more. And for all of the idea of, yes, the biggest gaps on this team, and you're going to have them when you're rebuilding and you got $80 million in dead cap money, are offensive skill.
Yeah.
But let's not sleep on some improvements that are going to be needed in the offseason on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I don't really like the singular focus of fans. We have to draft Genty no matter what, or Tyler Warren no matter what. Well, those guys might not be there for a team that's lacked so many top 100 picks. Is it smart to allocate multiple resources to go up when those pick positions are not historically the value spots and probably the best 2 positions in the draft? I don't know. Like, there's no guarantees in the draft as well. You trade up and give up all those resources for Genty. If it was Genty versus the entire field of running backs available, I'm taking the field in this class. So again, Genty's a heck of a prospect.
You just saw why I can't stand the idea of best player available. That's why I hate that phrase. The field is probably going to have a player that's better than the best player available.
Yeah. You still have to trust your evaluations at the end of the day, and there has been mathematical models that show there is actually pretty good discrepancy between like the first 16 picks of a draft, and then it's like pick 17 to 60 are pretty much the same. So there is cutoffs and tiers, but is it worth giving up multiple to go get a guy at a non-premium position? I can't get behind it. There's been some rumors that I think Sean Payton might be pretty infatuated with Genty. I don't know if you remember when Sean Payton first came in, there was a lot of talk about how in love he was with Gibbs. And obviously Denver didn't have a chance to do that, but we'll see. Peyton will get what he wants. I just wouldn't necessarily agree with the narrow scope of it all. But coming back to it, yeah, Denver's defense has fallen a bit, Scott, and the area, I think we talked about it a little bit on Monday, but it's gotten so much worse, and it's even worse, obviously, coming off this Bengals game. But Denver has one of the top 3 defenses in football this season in your advanced stats. I think they were top 10 for sure. Like DVOA, they were 8th coming into this week. I think they were 3rd in EPA per play. they have been bad, Scott, against on third down overall this season. Third and fourth down, this is with weighted win probability to the 10 to 90% win probability, so garbage time filtered out. Denver has the 19th ranked defense in EPA per play on third and fourth down, and they're 23rd against the pass on third and fourth down. Where Denver's been getting their value on defense is first and second down. Mm-hmm. But third down, they've not been able to get off the field. I don't know what it is structurally about the defense. I don't know if it's – I'm going to bother Cody Alexander again, who does a lot of defensive stuff, because that is such a massive discrepancy of this defense to be that bad on third and fourth down compared.
Especially if you're winning first and second.
Yeah, like you're really winning first and second down. So I don't know what it is. I don't know if the answer is more pass rush. I don't know if it's a linebacker play. I don't know what it is, but there has to be some deep dive analysis on why Denver is so much worse on third and fourth down this season compared to early downs.
Speaking of third and fourth down, I think after last night, I think Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders are something like 19 of 21 on fourth down. That
doesn't seem
that's good.
Yeah.
that's good. And I know you rank them, so you say they're 21st. It's just, a lot of people are figuring out that if I'm in plus territory, it's better to go for it than punt it into the end zone. So they're going for it more often. But again, I think Vance plays for the most part, a high risk, high reward type of defense. So you're either going to get them off, or yes, no kidding, Scott. It's like they're either attacking and getting the sack, or they're giving up the first down. There's not a lot of short passes underneath, make the tackle short of the sticks.
Yeah. It's frustrating. I think there'll have to be some sort of deep dive analysis on that, Scott. But to our main point here, I see my internet just said all of a sudden, "Hey, what's going on, Nick? Stop it, internet." Let's say Denver ends up losing to the Chiefs here, and they don't make the playoffs. What is your perspective on the season still? Because obviously, you had 3 games to win 1 and get in. Denver went from a 91% playoff probability to now I think it's a 50-50 about.
Yeah.
So
it's 55
frustrating
right
to have
now.
that, but 55. So essentially 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
What is your perspective on that?
I think, overall, you look at it again and say at the beginning of the season, if I said you can have 9 and 8, would you take it? The answer probably would have been yes. And by the way, Bo Nix is going to finish second in the offensive, just period, and rookie of the year. Offense, defense, doesn't matter. You're going to finish 9 and 8, and Bo Nix is going to finish second in the rookie of the year voting. Would you take it? You'd snatch my hand off for it. You would absolutely, you would have said, if we had asked you that in August, you would have said, hell yeah. There might have been one person, that guy who says, no, that's not good enough. It's Super Bowl or bust. Okay, yeah, whatever. Everybody would have said it was great. So if you look at that on the whole, you say, okay, this was a good season. However, it leaves you feeling deflated knowing that you were 6-3 at one point, or what? You're 9-5, I think, 9-5, and finish losing 3 straight. And Nick, some of that comes into depth concerns as injuries start piling up. All the Broncos have been that injured. You don't know what these guys go through day to day. To be out there. If they had better depth, maybe they're not playing. $80 million cap hit. The depth concerns, some of the talent concerns, especially on defense, rookie quarterback. 9 and 8 is a spectacular season for this team, but it will leave you feeling hollow. It'll leave you feeling a little hollow if you were to lose, close it with 3 straight.
I think that I'm with you, and you're right on the general perspective. We need to find out if Bo Nix was good enough to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. I'm not ready to come in here and say he's going to be a superstar. I haven't seen superstar play from him as a quarterback, especially when I watch it compared to what I saw from Jaden Daniels last night as a rookie quarterback. Like, oh, he's a rookie. Yes, he's a rookie, and he's made some great plays, but there's levels to this, right?
But Nick, real quick on this. In the discussions we have behind the scenes, sometimes when I'm in the green room and stuff, talking about, is it going to be Bo Nix? Is it going to be Jaden Daniels? I say, remember, Jaden hasn't had his Atlanta Falcons defense stat padding game yet.
Yeah.
Bo got that one. You want to remember what Bo looked like against the Atlanta Falcons defense? Jaden still gets to stat pad against the Atlanta Falcons defense. And he did.
Yeah. But the point I'm making here is that Bo, it's kind of like you have to reach certain levels to get to the next, or a certain level of play to reach the next level. And it's a low bar for, let's get to season 2 as a rookie quarterback. Like the Bryce Young early on stuff, or Josh Rosen, like you have to be so abysmal to not get that second year. Bo Nix has cleared that without a doubt. I mean, the counting statistics look great. There's some quarterbacking stuff. There's some play calling stuff that leave questions for me still with Bo Nix, the ability to handle the pocket. There was a throw that he had in the fourth quarter that I literally screamed at the TV because there was plenty of room in the pocket, and he jolts up and throws off platform for no reason across his body. Just like, Bo, we don't got to be so frantic. Like, it's okay. We can play calm a little bit here. Stuff like that. Also, I don't know if, again, it's just one season. I don't know if it's a Sean Payton thing. I don't know if it's an offensive weapons thing. I don't know if it's a Bo Nix thing, Scott, but the lack of true drop back pass attempts in this game, everything's kind of an easy button. Like a lot of it is the screens or the quick, the slants and everything. Where's the dagger go? I mean, we were throwing the dagger when Bo Nix was playing his best football. It's not in the offense anymore, but the actual true drop back sets, they're not in the offense so much. And that's something that we can't answer right now just because you don't have a man beater on your pass catchers right now. And
15 of those throws are basically an extension of your running game.
Yeah, absolutely.
15 of those throws are because you don't have a running game.
But you had a running game versus Cincinnati. You ran for over 5 yards a carry. Yeah, and it kind of went away in the second half. But again, the questions are, But my point being, though, is that we've seen enough from Bo Nix that obviously he gets year 2 and you have reason to be optimistic. Now we're going from football 101 to football 201. Are these lack of the true drop back stuff from Sean Payton because of the quarterback, because of the weapons? It's okay that we're not seeing it right now, but it is that next step of quarterbacking play. And again, it's unfair to compare him to Joe Burrow or Justin Herbert. But at the end of the day, even though he is a rookie, you are a quarterback in the AFC, and that's your competition. You don't have to be as good exactly as Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson or Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow or heck, even Trevor Lawrence or Drake May. Some of these guys that have, I think, the drop back stuff, there's been more flashes of the NFL high caliber stuff outside the hash marks. But that said, though, it's been more than enough to be optimistic about Bo Nix and see what it goes like year 2. Is he going to end up being a superstar, top 5, top 10 quarterback? I don't know, but we don't have to answer that right now. What we have to answer is he a good enough quarterback on a rookie contract you can build around him the next 3 to 4 years and then go from there. I think absolutely yes. We'll go from there.
Yeah, I got questions 10 other places before I get to quarterback when I'm addressing this in the offseason. And Jeremy says, I personally laughed out loud when they said Bo Nix now has the longest air yard completion in the NFL this season. Let me show this because, Jeremy, it's better than that. I saved this one. I don't know if you can read it, but you're listening. I'll read it out loud for you anyway. Bo Nix's 51-yard touchdown pass to Marvin Mims traveled 67.0 yards in the air, the longest completion by air distance of the season, is what Jeremy said. And the second longest in the next-gen stats era since 2016, so that's 9 seasons, behind only P.J. Walker to DJ Moore in Week 8 of 2022, which beat it by 0.6 of a yard. So basically, that was the longest throw and completion in 10 years. Awesome. Second longest throw and completion in 10 years. That was a hell of a play. It really was. That was a hell of a play.
Shout out to Nix for getting that one off. Also both touchdown passes to Mims. That is not, I've said it on here as well, that, the deep ball accuracy is as much a wide receiver stat as it is a quarterback stat. But you still have to have the arm talent and the timing to get it down there. So shout out to Bo Nix and shout out to Marvin Mims. Somebody that we talked about all offseason needs to take a step this season for this offense to be competent and have some team building. I don't know if Mims ever ends up somebody you love as your wide receiver 2 or your second best pass catching or offensive option, but he can definitely be a part of your top 4 and be excited about him. And what Mims has done the last 4 games should have Broncos country, I think, very excited about the potential usage of him going forward. Now, is he ever going to be a wide receiver 1 or even a wide receiver 2? I don't know. But he was a really young player coming out of Oklahoma, and he is showing flashes now. It's not just relegated gadget stuff that we saw early on. The downfield stuff, The contested catch on that touchdown one, there's reason to be excited there. The cupboard is not completely barren. You need running back, you need tight end. It would be great to have another wide receiver, but I think Vele being your wide receiver 4, I think that's fine. Sutton being one of your top 2, Mims sprinkled in there. There
Mims
are
is
building
a
blocks.
Spectacular 3. He is a spectacular wide receiver 3. He's a guy. Mims is the guy that should do really well on punt returns, and then should have 3 catches for 60 yards every week.
And you can
not
get
a volume guy.
Yeah,
not a volume guy, but a big play guy.
Yeah, and scheme touches in the screen game too. That still should be a part of the offense. Honestly, one of the more frustrating parts of this team, Scott, and you see it with the running game too, but as big as Vele is, he can't block. He's struggling really out there as a blocker. You get little Jordan Humphrey out there as a glorified flex tight end. Your tight ends are bad blockers. I mean, I'm really excited to put the Lucas Kroll hype era that we had this offseason for a blip to bed, because, I mean, he's out there. He exists. That's about all I can say about him and Troutman. It's nice to have bodies, I guess, but there's no difference making there by any respect. But we got Coach Chris coming in and talk about difference makers. He said, "I just want to wish you both an amazing new year. Broncos look done. It's the NFL, man. We'll be right back on that horse after a win against Kansas City, and then it's whatever happens. Who knows? But I'm hoping that we get a win against Kansas City." It says, "Worst defense in December in terms of yardage. What happened? It's not because of Moss' absence. Our play calling is awful. Much love, guys, and keep fighting the good fight." Locke has been playing poor outside of the great tackle, creating a fumble against, was that Michael Pittman? I can't remember who the receiver was for the Colts. Your linebackers have been absolutely dreadful. I mean, I'm going to be honest, Scott, the worst player on the field defensively is Justin Strnad. Just watching him play, it's like, oh my God, that is horrific.
We go into the season and say your linebackers are Cody Barton and Justin Strnad. What are you thinking?
Uh-oh. Yeah.
You're thinking, uh-oh. That's part of it. Your linebackers aren't good enough. These guys have collectively, we've said it all year, they've collectively played as a whole better than their individual parts. Yeah. Vance Joseph said last week, it might have been the week before. Last week he said, "Yes, I'm frustrated." But he says basically it's the opposite of what we think of watching offense, which is they've seen us now. They've got film on us. They know who to attack, where to attack, and all those types of things. And some of the personnel deficiencies that have happened on this team that we were afraid of on the defense were covered up early, and 60 sacks will help that. We're covered up early, but they're starting to get exposed. Your linebackers aren't good enough. PJ Locke coming in was kind of just a guy. And then, you had questions at wide receiver, at cornerback 2, 3, and 4 going down. In your nickel and dime package, you have a question at quarterbacks. And your cornerback play, including Riley Moss last week, who's also been absent, so you basically haven't been playing with cornerback 2 for the last month, has stepped back a little bit. You cover that up a lot with 60 sacks and the amount of pressure that you've been able to generate. But a guy like Joe Burrow can find the holes. Justin Herbert, when he's on a heater, which he was, my God, he didn't play like that against the Buccaneers and the Falcons, I promise you, like he played against the Broncos. That was Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
They'll find those holes. So your competition on the offensive side of the ball is picked up. The scheme has been diagnosed a little bit, and you've got some deficiencies on the defensive side of the ball from a personnel standpoint. But overall, I think Vance Joseph has done a spectacular job with this defense. Again, when we take a step back and look at the 17 games, this defense is wildly overachieved.
They just got to figure out how to get off the freaking field on 3rd and 4th down. And we talked about it. I mean, again, I don't want to take away from the defense, but we talked about it after the Colts game and the Browns game as well. It's like, okay, well, the defensive touchdowns and the dropped touchdown on the goal line are nice, but you cannot depend on your defense scoring points. It kind of felt like that crazy run Denver was on last season with turnovers, where it's like, yeah, this is nice. This is not sustainable. The underlying metrics here are red flags galore. And then you play teams, the top quarterbacks in Herbert and Burrow the last 2 weeks, and all of a sudden your defensive turnovers / points off of turnovers dries up. Well, here we are, right? The defense plummets down to bottom 10 unit, and they look a lot worse. So that's, again, there were cracks showing there early on. So not early on, but recently. Yeah.
To be fair, when we include in this, well, what about Cleveland? What version of Jameis are you facing? Because Jameis was a number 1 overall pick. And even though he threw like 37 touchdowns, he also had like 40 touchdowns that year too. He's capable of the spectacular. It's just which version are you facing? Which version of Jameis Winston are you facing? Quarterback play has gotten a big step up here recently than facing Justin Fields, at the beginning with Pittsburgh, or Kirk Cousins, a broken Kirk Cousins. It's gotten better. And again, some of the personnel deficiencies are rearing their ugly head, which isn't a total surprise, based on, again, rebuilding season, 80 million in dead cap, and how many 5, 6 top 100 draft picks that aren't on your team right now?
6 because the Peyton trade as well in there, baked in there, not just Wilson. So.
Top 50. Not even top 100. There's a bunch of top 50 picks that you're missing in there. This has been a spectacular. I don't care if they lose the last 3 games. Sean Payton is still in the conversation for coach of the year for me.
It'll be hard to give it over Kevin O'Connell.
I've already written in number 1
in Sharpie
and O'Connell. Dan Quinn's done a damn good job in Washington. 11-5 with that team. There's been a lot of really good and some really bad teams. There's big disparity this year, Nick, between the good and the bad this year.
Yeah, Denver is one of the few teams in the murky middle. It seems like in the last 2 weeks, ball has not bounced. Although, God, can I even say that? Denver, I'm waiting for the success rate discrepancy. They should have lost this Bengals game. They should have been down 21-7.
All bounced your way against the Bengals.
Yeah, and you were not able to capitalize. I mean, the doink, 4th down misses, and of course the Hail Mary, pretty unbelievable. We'll see what happens.
Chase Brown getting injured at the end of that game, when Chase Brown goes down and saves you a timeout and gives you a chance to even run the plays to get down there. I mean, that's, some of my notes on there that I have. And frankly, we can get in this at a later time because we're just about out of here.
Yeah.
I like taking the ball first. It changed this game. When you put 3 up on the board, it caused the Bengals to go for it twice. They were chasing points on 4th down, and it gives you another chance to stop them, and you did. And frankly, you get a chance to get the back-to-back possessions. Yeah, but I also get the chance to get +1 possessions in the first half. If I start the game and finish the half, I got 1 more possession than you. I like taking the ball first and putting pressure, just like you would in overtime. I know the rules are different, but Peyton has taken the ball and gone out and tried and score quickly, and he has, and it changes the game. It changes the game when he does that, and I like taking the ball first.
My biggest concern with this Broncos team on the whole is that their defense has been better than the offense. Now, not recently, but on the whole, and also Denver is the worst offense in the NFL in 3-and-out rate. So that is something that just, statistically, we'll see what it is after this week. Because they moved the ball I felt like there weren't a lot of 3-and-outs in this one. They were tied with the Chargers as far as the worst 3-and-out rate from the offense. And I can't imagine the Chargers are going to be tied with them anymore after they put 100 points against the Patriots. We'll see what happens here. Final thought. I mean, unfortunately, Scott, I think you're right on the whole. It's hard not to be too upset about this team if they do blow it. And let's make no mistake, dropping 3 games in a row would be blowing it. Because it is the NFL and you had a chance in all of those, especially the Cincinnati game. I mean, they gave you every opportunity. Who wants to lose more? They've thoroughly outplayed you in that first half, and you just could not get off the field and you couldn't get the big plays. Again, it's unfair. Bo Nix is a rookie, but also you need your quarterback to step up and play like a superstar sometimes if you want to be one of those teams, right? And we saw some of it. I mean, he was so much better in the second half than the first half. He did improve. So I like the mental toughness there and the ability to, stay dialed in with all that. But at the end of the day, you got to win football games and your competition is the competition. Even if you have the caveat that for a rookie, you're an NFL starting quarterback. It's unfair, but that's where we want to go. So expectations change. Where you're at changes. On the whole, I'm with you. It is a successful season, but to be as good as you have been this season, to have the breaks that you've had, to be as healthy as you've been too. I know everybody, Moss has been injured. The depth's not good. Denver's been one of the healthiest teams in football this season. I think they only have had 4 season-ending injuries, which a couple weeks ago was the 2nd lowest rate in the entire NFL. It's not always just who's the best. It's who's the healthiest, who gets the luckiest health breaks. And Denver's been healthy.
War of attrition.
Yeah. So on the season, it's hard to say it would be a total disappointment, but if you lose 3 in a row and fail to make the playoffs, I think that is a pretty big disappointment, especially to get that playoff losing streak monkey off your back.
It's okay. We live in such a binary world that it's like, if it's not this, it's this. No, it's not. And it's not even just binary. It's extreme binary.
Polarized.
Oh, this season was crap. They blew the playoffs. The season was great. They had a chance at the playoffs. Both things can be true at the same time. I can have a successful season and still be disappointed with the final outcome.
Yep.
That's okay. You go to you make a Super Bowl run and you lose it. Did you have a good season? Yeah, you did. If you're making a run and not expected to it, are you disappointed? Yeah, you are. You are disappointed. Yeah. Both things can be true. It's okay to feel disappointed with the way the last month of the season right now. It's okay.
Yeah.
But it's been a successful season.
And I also think we have more information now, right? Like it's a different perspective when you've gained information based on what we knew at the beginning of what we knew in the beginning of the season. Obviously, you have enough information now to be optimistic about Bo Nix as a starting quality quarterback on a rookie contract. I like a lot of the offensive design, the defensive pieces. A lot of guys have stepped up, and you have a lot of room to improve going forward. You have your draft picks. You have a lot of cap space. You can build this team forward, but you have had a top 10 defense. Bo Nix has been competent. You have a top 5 offensive line. A lot of those things together, and you have actually one of the better special teams units too. All those things together say it would be slightly disappointing, especially in a year where the middle class of the AFC is poor, to lose out on that playoffs. Overall, though, it's a successful season for the franchise's direction. I think that's the big one that we both agree on here, and the chat agrees on as well. So we'll see. It's a big game against the Chiefs coming up here. We will not be live New Year's Eve. Got family stuff going on here with the little guy. So no building the Broncos with Carl unless he wants to run something. I'm not sure. And then also New Year's Day. Hopefully everybody enjoys a better college football playoffs than we had that first round. I think these games are going to be pretty great. I'm excited for that. And we'll see what happens. Denver still controls their own destiny. If you remember, Scott, when we led into the Colts game with the final 4 games of the year, we set the over-under. I think chat mostly said Denver would go 3-1 in that stretch. You and I were 2-2. Well, right now
I was 3-1 in this. I thought that
I said
had
2
the chances. I think I was like, I think they should go 3-1. Yep. And frankly, they'll got a chance to go 2-2, and they probably should have been 3-1. Again, so they should they have won that game? Yeah. Again, Cincinnati presented opportunities, and Michael, thank you. He's going to close us out here. It says, great show today, Nick and Scott on Broncos for breakfast. Go Bo Broncos. Yeah. We always remember the play or two that could have gone our way. Mm-hmm. That's just human nature. It's like, if this didn't happen, if this didn't happen. Yeah. How about Jamar Chase dropping a ball in the end zone? Remember I mentioned those first two drives where they went for it on 4th down and didn't make it after you put some pressure on them. If you're counting on winning a game because Jamar Chase drops an out route for a touchdown, you're going to lose a lot of games. Well, he did. He dropped one. Chase Brown falling down and hurting himself and saving you, the time management there. The doink field goal, there was a lot of times in there too where Bengals fans are saying we should have won this game more handily. Yep. So it goes both ways. But yeah, I think the Broncos probably should have won that game.
Yeah. I did want to shout out to Gatorade Gaming. Says, happy birthday to me. Go Broncos. Go Gatorade Gaming. Happy birthday to you, man. Appreciate you coming in and hanging out with us today. We also got Jason Bonney saying, is Nick Bolton worth top 5 linebacker money? Could help us and hurt Kansas City. I love the idea. I don't even think is he even a top 2 linebacker on that team right now? I mean, I don't know, Jason. I don't think he's worth top 5 money. I haven't spent so much time analyzing him, but like if I was picking a linebacker off the Chiefs right now, I'd be like, I think I might like Drew Tranquill and Leo Chanel more than Nick Bolton, but I don't think top 5
cap hit on linebackers right now is Demario Davis at 9. Is Nick Bolton worth $9 million? Well, I got news for you. Alex Singleton is 10th at 7.33. If Alex Singleton is worth 7.33, you can spend 9.
Yeah.
You think you're getting a significant upgrade over
the guy who's going to get paid
number 2.
The guy who's going to get paid the most money at linebacker this offseason, I think, will be Zach Bond, who's had an all-pro caliber season for the Eagles, especially if you're trying to run a blitz-oriented defense. Zach Bond has the ability to play edge, play inside, play the A-gap, mug, a bunch of different stuff. So I think Zach Bond will probably be the more prized jewel as a linebacker this offseason. But we'll see. I think Bolton is good, and Denver could certainly pay him. Also, I mean, we talk about tight end and running back a lot. Where Denver's going to be drafting, they're going to have a chance to take a linebacker as well. It's kind of in the same vein as tight end, where historically first-round expenditure of resources on the position do not work out very well. But at the end of the day, you're drafting individual players, not prospects. We can look at the historical precedent, but there's always going to be people and outliers, and they're always individual players. So is Jihad Campbell from Alabama or Jalen Walker from Georgia worth that draft pick? Maybe. We'll see. I mean, it's just part of the conversation right now. Got to be open-minded. But appreciate everyone coming in today, hanging out with us. A lot of support from Michael Ronquillo. We got Max coming in from Manitoulin Island. I can't pronounce that, but appreciate you. Hopefully you're staying warm. James Todd, appreciate you. Tim Hall, Coach Chris with the big time support. Thank you so much. Michael again, and of course, Jason Bonnie. Happy New Year. Happy holidays, everybody. Big game for Denver. I think they're going to get it done, especially with how much backup. It sounds like the backup's going to play. We don't know anything officially yet, but more and more is coming out. They're going to be resting guys. So really no excuse for Denver on that front. They better get it done, and you can't overlook anybody, especially with how Denver has been volatile. It's the NFL. So don't overlook them. Sucks to lose those 2 games in a row. But Denver on the whole, I mean, they're kind of where we thought they'd be. Defense regressed up and down from the quarterback position. A lot to be excited about going forward. Also, Joey comes in. Isn't Greenlaw a free agent? Yeah, Dre Greenlaw from the 49ers is incredible. He had that horrific injury last season in the Super Bowl NFC Championship. I can't remember which one it was.
He's the one that was just going out on the field and blew an Achilles.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and he was unbelievable. But I think he just came back. It's really hard to talk about paying him. I don't think he's played very much this season. I don't have the medical information. But yeah, we'll see about Greenlaw. But he's one that's, definitely talented when he's out there.
So anyway, thanks everybody. Hope you all had a great year. It's been a great year with Broncos for Breakfast. This is our last broadcast of the 2024 season. Appreciate y'all the support that you guys have showed, and we've had a blast doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Been a fun season on the whole. Appreciate everyone. Make sure you're following Scott and I on Twitter. Scott's at Scott Kennedy. I'm at Kendell MHH. Also follow us at Mile High Huddle, of course. If you haven't done so, we're over at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. If you listen after the fact, or driving with family and maybe need to put in earpods for a little bit, find us on Spotify and Apple Podcast. Please leave us a 5-star review. That helps us a heck of a lot as well. Obviously, the live stream is the best place to join us on YouTube, as it says there underneath. Subscribe, like, and share. But some people busy with family listening after the fact. We appreciate that as well. You guys are great. Scott, always good to talk to you. Happy birthday to Scott as well, turning probably a fresh 34 again.
No, I'd look like, if I said 34, I'd be like, dude, you look like crap. I'll be 72.
For sure. Either way, happy birthday to Scott. Hope you enjoy your trip, and I will be back again. I'm going to be gone for a bit here, guys. You won't see me again until Monday the 13th, because I will be making the drive back from Iowa to Seattle. So wish me luck. 4 days and about 2,000 miles. So it's a lot, but appreciate everyone. We got Nick coming in, says go Chargers. Hey man, I'm not a hater here by any means. I love Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert. So congrats to you guys, and we'll see what happens in the playoffs. Appreciate all you guys. Have a good one. Happy New Year. Go Broncos.